This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Wednesday, May 26th. Welcome to Africa 54. We continue to work remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but what hasn't changed is our commitment to bringing you the latest and most important news from the African continent and around the world. This is today's Africa 54. An earthquake shook the borderland between Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo on Tuesday, raising fears that another eruption like the one that killed 32 people at the weekend could be on its way. Doyle of Reuters has more.
An earthquake of 5.3 magnitude rocked the borderlands between Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo on Tuesday morning, the Rwanda seismic monitor has said. And that's raised fears of a fresh eruption, following one at the weekend that killed at least 32 people. On Saturday, Congo's Mount Nyiragongo, one of the world's most active and dangerous volcanoes, erupted. It sent a river of lava downhill towards Goma, a city of some 2 million people. The molten rock stopped a few hundred metres short of the city limits, but wrecked 17 villages on the way. Around 1,000 homes were destroyed and more than 5,000 people displaced, according to the United Nations. One survivor is Nzanzu Mahiwa Zawadi. He fled with his family as lava approached their home. His children have been asking when they can go back.
It hurts to be human. It's hard when you've lost. And the kids? We try to show them that it's over. But it's hard. As an adult, it hurts me. Because it's a blow. A really big blow.
Tuesday's quake struck in the Rugerero sector in western Rwanda, according to the Rwanda seismic monitor. The earthquake appears to have collapsed several buildings in Goma, a Reuters reporter said, though it was not clear if there were any casualties. Multiple cracks in the earth have emerged in Goma, and the area has been experiencing tremors since Nyiragongo's eruption. The lava lake in the volcano's crater appears to have refilled. That, according to the UN's refugee agency, has raised fears of new fissures in the volcano. Or another eruption.
Doyle of Reuters with that report. In the aftermath of the devastating Goma volcanic explosion, residents are calling on the government to provide immediate assistance. To understand how the government is responding to the crisis, Anasthasie Tudieshe sat down for an interview with Congo's Minister of Communications and Government Spokesman, Muyaya.
The situation now, the emergency is the humanitarian question. That's why the government sent a huge delegation to work closely with the local authority to make the whole evaluation about first humanitarian level, security, and scientific. Because here, politicians come in the second level. The first level is the scientists who's monitoring every day the movement around the volcano, and from their input, the government will see what can be the strategy. The first level here, the idea is to see the way we can protect people, and then the government, after the whole evaluation, will see what kind of needs people has now, what can we do with MONUSCO and other international NGOs who are working in the ground to see the way we can have a quick answer to help those people.
That was Congo's Minister of Communications and Government Spokesman Muyaya speaking with reporter Anasthasie Tudieshe. International pressure increased on Mali's military leaders to free the president and prime minister on Tuesday, a day after their arrest deepened a political crisis. President Bando and Prime Minister Mokta Ouane have been detained at a military base outside the capital Bamako since Monday evening. The two men were in charge of a transitional government created after a military takeover in August that ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Interim Vice President Kano Assimi Goïta said on Tuesday he had seized power because the president and prime minister had failed to consult him about a government reshuffle in which two former coup leaders lost their cabinet positions. Goïta has promised the elections planned for next year at the end of an 18-month transitional period would go ahead. The United States, France, and the European Union are among those that have condemned the detention and called for the immediate release of the two officials. South Africa said on Tuesday the consensus has been reached to hold a special session of the World Health Organization's decision-making body this year to consider negotiating a new international treaty on pandemic preparedness. The WHO, under fire for its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, has endorsed a proposal initially made by the European Union to negotiate a global treaty as a way to ensure countries' political commitment to fighting disease outbreaks. The WHO's World Health Assembly will meet from November 29 to December 1st. A report by an independent panel faulted China for being slow to apply public health measures when the first COVID-19 cases emerged in late 2019, and the WHO for waiting too long to declare an emergency a month later. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said that the problem was that countries were inconsistent in implementing its existing international health regulations on notifying disease outbreaks. As vaccinations rates in the United States slip, states are thinking of ways to overcome vaccine hesitancy by providing incentives for people to get their COVID shots. Valentina Vasileva has the story, narrated by Anna Rice.
$1 million for getting a COVID vaccine? Not likely, but local authorities in some American states seem willing to do almost anything to encourage people to get vaccinated. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine recently announced that 5 randomly chosen people who get their shots in June and early July will get $1 million cash prize.
My fellow citizens, let's do this, Ohio. Let's get it done. Let's get everyone vaccinated. Because we are Ohioans, we are Buckeyes, we're strong, and we will finish the job.
Every Wednesday, Ohio authorities will announce the lucky winner of a weekly lottery. The prize money comes from federal funds. The state is also incentivizing teenagers to get vaccinated. One lucky kid will get a 4-year stipend and full tuition at the university of his or her choice, including room and board, fees, and books. But not everyone approves of these incentives. Twitter users have widely criticized the governor's actions. Governor DeWine responded to critics by saying that choosing not to get vaccinated is irresponsible. And right now, less than 40% of Ohio's population is fully vaccinated. The rest are either undecided or don't want a vaccine at all. It's this vaccine hesitancy that political leaders are trying to overcome.
For those who get their first shot between now and Memorial Day, we're offering a voucher from our Fish and Wildlife Department and our Parks and Conservation folks, and from retailers like LL Bean, the Portland Sea Dogs, our minor league baseball team, Charlie knows so well, and the Oxford Plains Speedway, our biggest racetrack.
Since the start of May, vaccination rates across the U.S. have been falling, and medical centers offering vaccines have been closing due to the lack of patients. For life to return to normal, public health experts say tens of millions more Americans need to get the shot. And while incentives like money, tickets, and even a free glass of beer can help motivate people, health experts say raising awareness about the vaccine is key.
This may not be the right incentive for everyone, but what people should look for and ask questions about is about the vaccine itself. And so these incentives are really a way to get people to think about the vaccine and to talk about the vaccine.
Whether or not these measures are effective will become clearer by the 4th of July holiday. The date is not accidental. President Biden has set a goal that by Independence Day, 70% of the U.S. population will have the vaccine. Right now, nationwide, just under 38% is fully vaccinated. For Valentina Vasilyeva in Washington, Anna Rice, VOA News.
The city that never sleeps is finally staying up after 14 months of being mostly closed for indoor dining due to the coronavirus. No other city in the United States was hit as hard as New York, and the Big Apple's nightlife reopening is a sign of hope for many worldwide. Tina Trin reports.
There was lots to celebrate on a recent Friday night in New York City. For the first weekend since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, bars and restaurants opened with no mask restrictions for vaccinated people.
We got hit pretty hard during the pandemic, so it's great to see everyone's out, everyone's friendly, everyone's having fun.
Other milestones? Indoor dining is now allowed at 100% capacity, and the subways have resumed 24-hour service. It was a big difference from a year ago when Christina Albert moved to the city.
It was a ghost town, and to see New York City come back to life, especially Midtown and the theater district, I am super excited.
Inside this Hell's Kitchen restaurant, Daniel Ercilla, a teacher, had some choice words for those who skipped town.
I just want to say that all the people who left New York, suckers, we are back.
More than 3.4 million New Yorkers, about 41%, are fully vaccinated with the coronavirus vaccine.
The beauty of New York is like we're still wearing masks when it's necessary. We are trying to balance, like having fun and taking care of each other.
It's starting to feel a little bit more normal. So we're happy to see that. It's definitely from lonely to back to, having family in your living room.
For Anton Dayrit, chef and owner of Filipino restaurant Tradition, the timing couldn't be better.
We opened up a week before the lockdown in 2020. And we were forced to shut down our doors.
On this night, there was an hour wait for a table.
I got a full table right here. I got a line outside the door, people walking by, The energy of New York is coming back.
I'm thankful that it's coming back. My bar is thankful it's coming back. My staff is definitely thankful it's coming back.
Jarrett Major, general manager of Bar 9, had improvised with outdoor seating and stages for the live music venue. But on this night, it felt like old times. Over at Cuban restaurant Guantanamera, owner Mario Zarate was also tending to a full house.
I never doubted that New York will come back. New York going to rebound, and it could be better than before.
After more than a year of restrictions, New Yorkers are once again proving they're the city that never sleeps. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
We'd like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered during the discussion on Facebook. Our address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a Nigerian-based edutech company uses interactive fun games to help children understand and retain knowledge. We'll be right back.
All this week on Africa 54, we are partnering with the BAL to bring you the best of African basketball. Don't miss it. Yeah.
Next on Straight Talk Africa, we'll take an in-depth look at the youth-led social uprisings we've seen across Africa in recent years. As young people take to the streets and social media to demand change, we ask, have they been effective? And what have the mass uprisings really accomplished? Join me, Heidi Adams, on the next Straight Talk Africa.
Welcome back to Africa 54. On the first anniversary of the death of Minneapolis man George Floyd in police custody that sparked worldwide protests, U.S. lawmakers have failed to pass comprehensive police reform legislation. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has more from Capitol Hill.
9 minutes and 29 seconds. The time it took George Floyd to die in police custody, mobilizing millions of protesters around the world. But despite a deadline from President Joe Biden, the U.S. Congress is still struggling to pass police reform legislation named in his honor exactly 1 year after his death.
What is important is that when it reaches President Biden's desk, that it's a substantive piece of legislation, and that is far more important than a specific date. We will work until we get the job done.
The chief sticking point in negotiations, the concept of qualified immunity that protects law enforcement officers from being sued for misconduct.
We have been closely engaged with the negotiators and a range of parties on the Hill. We have also been respecting the space needed for the negotiators to have these discussions about where they can find common ground.
Lawmakers failed to reach an agreement last summer on the same issues at the height of protests over Floyd's death. His family is marking the anniversary with Biden amid reports the White House is seeking agreement on the legislation from police unions.
We don't think that it has to be one against the other. It should be that we all want better policing. We all want just policing where George Floyd would get an opportunity to take a breath without having a knee on his neck.
The Floyd family is also on Capitol Hill today, meeting with the lead negotiators of the legislation, Democratic Senator Cory Booker and Republican Senator Tim Scott.
I think I should only speak about what I'm completely confident of, and I'm confident that we're making progress.
If passed, that legislation could also include a national registry of police misconduct and a ban on police chokeholds and no-knock warrants. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas over Gaza continues as the conflict puts a spotlight on U.S. President Joe Biden's approach to international challenges. Michelle Quinn reports.
The ceasefire marked the first major foreign policy crisis for U.S. President Joe Biden and shed a light on his approach in handling global hotspots. During the 11 days of fighting, Biden supported Israel publicly, but reportedly worked behind the scenes with Egyptian negotiators and Israel to push for an end to the hostilities.
We got to the result thanks to President Biden's relentless focus on this quiet but I think effective diplomacy in getting to a ceasefire and stopping the violence in 11 days.
Biden's efforts occurred as the Israeli aerial and artillery campaign left 248 people dead in Gaza, which is controlled by the militant group Hamas and is part of Palestinian territory. More than 4,000 rockets fired from Gaza into Israel killed 13. Biden has come under pressure from members of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party who want the administration to take a harder line with Israel and do more to support the Palestinians. They are concerned about the United States selling arms to Israel, in particular, a pending shipment worth $735 million. Secretary Blinken, who is heading to the Middle East this week, says Biden is committed to Israel having the means to defend itself. But congressional input is important on the arms sale.
Any arms sale is going to be done in full consultation with Congress. We're committed to that, and we want to make sure that that process works effectively.
Republicans point to the role of Iranian-funded Hamas in Gaza. They have also expressed concern that the Biden administration would lift sanctions against Iran in an effort to persuade Tehran to return to compliance with a 2015 nuclear accord. The deal is aimed at reining in the Islamic Republic's nuclear program, which Iran maintains is for peaceful purposes. Blinken later told CNN a return to the nuclear deal could be a stepping stone to addressing Iran's support for terrorism.
That's the key reason why I don't want us to proceed with lifting sanctions on Iran as long as Iran remains the foremost supporter of terrorism in the world.
In 2018, then-President Donald Trump withdrew from the deal and imposed new sanctions on Tehran. He said the deal did not do enough to stop objectionable Iranian behavior. A year later, Iran began exceeding the deal's nuclear activity limits. Biden said the U.S. will work with the United Nations to provide humanitarian assistance to Gaza and help with reconstruction. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
In our tech report, Brighter Bridges, a London-based data-driven research firm focusing on Africa, reveals that the African education ecosystem is robust and Nigeria takes the lead. In Lagos, Niger Kids, an edutech company founded by three sisters, has developed an online and mobile platform that helps children ages 3 to 13 understand and retain knowledge using interactive fun games. For more, Africa 54's technology correspondent Paul Ndiho via Skype spoke to Titi Adewusi, co-founder, Niger Kids in Lagos, Nigeria.
Titi Adewusi, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start by you telling me a little bit about what you do and Niger Kids.
I'm one of the 3 female co-founders of Niger Kids. And what we simply do is we bring digital learning to children, but in a different kind of way. We make it fun. We all know that children love to play, and so we use play-based learning to help teach children anything. So we basically take anything and we say to ourselves, how do we gamify it? How do we make it fun? How do we make it exciting so that children learn effortlessly? We want children to acquire skills, acquire knowledge in anything that they want to, but in a very fun and engaging way. So we do games, we do quizzes, we do worksheets. We've now also added doing interactive books, anything that will just make learning fun.
That's remarkable. How did you guys get started?
Honestly, it actually started with my son. So my youngest son just was someone that just didn't like learning. Anytime it was time to do his school homework, any of those things, it was always one excuse or the other. Oh, mommy, I'm coming. I'm going to the restroom. Mommy, I'm coming. I think I'm tired. Oh, I think I'm hungry. A 20 minutes homework could end up taking us 3 hours. And then I came across a quote that said, if children don't learn the way you teach them, maybe you need to teach them the way they learn. And so I looked at him and said, you know what? He's very engaged when it comes to anything digital. So maybe what I can do is take some of this, his homework, take some of this, his content, and just make it digital, something that I can put in his device. And so I sat down with my co-founders, who are actually my sisters, and we sat down and said, okay, let's do this. And that's really how we started.
Interesting. I wish, looking back, when I was a kid, I wish I had something like this. I think I would have turned out to be a better person. So what's the response been like? How are people responding to this initiative?
I think the feedback is the one that warms our hearts the most. When you look at all our achievements, really the feedback. So there was a public school, a government-owned school that we used to take our devices to like once a week as part of our way to give back to the community. We go there with our devices, about 20 devices, go sit with the children for like an hour. Some days we do math, some days we do English, some days we do science. The first feedback that we got from the principal of that school was that attendance was high on the days that we came. So they'll tell them, oh, you know what, if you're not well behaved today, I'm going to tell them they shouldn't come this week. And so, like, no, we want them to come and play the games. And then the other thing we then saw was there was improvement. The teacher noted that they wanted to learn because when they go back and play the game, they want to ensure that they do very well. So they were more, ready to listen in class, just so that, they can do well, when they actually play the game. So it was just wonderful to hear that, and that was even before the pandemic. Suddenly EdTech became the forgotten child, is what I like to say. The forgotten child suddenly became the prize and the favorite child. Suddenly everybody had no choice really but to move to technology, and they began to realize a lot of the things that they had left on the table. So we entered 2020 with a lot of people suddenly realizing that yes, they needed to embrace online learning. It gave them a lot more opportunity, but they also realized something, that online learning is tough.
How about in terms of content development? You said that you love doing that. Are you developing all the content yourselves?
we currently develop all the content ourselves. So we are made up of, educators as well in our team that develop the content, review the content. We also have kids that help provide the content, So we in 2020 we started doing short stories. So we have quite a number of kids that wrote the short stories, and they was all excited to see their short stories being published on our platform. We get ideas from the children in terms of developing the content. Even when we do develop the content, we do the initial testing with a group of children. Say, what do you like about this game? They'll tell you, you should have done this, you didn't do that. So, but all the content is actually developed here locally.
Thank you so much, Tati, for your time.
Thank you so much, Paul, for having me on Technology Africa 54.
Yeah.
That was Africa 54's tech correspondent, Paul Ndiho, speaking to Titi Adewusi, co-founder, Niger Kids in Lagos, Nigeria. A visit to the eye doctor may be one of those appointments people tend to put off. Now, one company has come up with a way for patients to administer their own eye exam using their smartphones. Here again is Tina Trin.
Thanks to the pandemic, people worldwide have had trouble visiting a doctor in person. One company, IQ, is letting patients play the eye doctor at home.
We have been focused on developing affordable, accessible, and accurate vision tests that you can do on your smartphone.
IQ's Vision Check 2 is a device that works with the smartphone to administer eye exams for nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism.
Vision Check 2 is actually our third generation refractometer that helps you measure your corrective power so you can use the results to order glasses online.
In a series of tests, users are shown two lines at various angles on the horizon and use the Vision Check 2 device to adjust them until they overlap.
It's based on a MIT patented technology that is licensed exclusively to IQ. The test basically projects a couple of beams of light into your eye, and we're able to reverse calculate the power you need to see clearly.
Phoebe Yu is the marketing director for IQ. She says Vision Check 2 isn't meant to replace a doctor entirely.
If you just needed updated numbers for new glasses so you can see clearly, our product can fulfill that need for you.
With the pandemic limiting travel, the company has seen an uptick in business.
People are more willing to kind of seek out other solutions that they can do at home and with a greater level of convenience in general.
Yu says there are major implications for those in the developing world.
For people who do not have traditional access to eye care, they don't have a qualified doctor, they can't get to where they need to go, a low-cost solution like ours could really change people's lives.
As the pandemic wears on, this at-home eye exam is one vision for a more accessible and self-empowered approach to eyesight. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.